Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Added Time FPL, our weekly Fantasy Premier League football podcast, back into Game Week 24 with the official assistant manager chip being active. My name is Nate, this is Mike, and in today's episode, we're going to discuss a few managers that you could look at playing this chip around, and just a recap of what the chip does. I just have to apologize in advance if I'm a bit sick. It's been a rough week for me, but we're here to give you the content that you deserve because, well, it's been a good season for us. Well, mostly me, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, mostly because I'm the one suffering and you're the one flying high.
We can't both be perfect, otherwise, it would be boring.
We represent the entire population.
Mike, tell us the assistant manager chip. Just a recap of how it works.
I'm a little excited for this chip. It was the mystery chip that was teased at the beginning of the season. It's now going to be active this week, so you can start bringing in a manager for free the first time, and every transfer afterwards costs you that 4 points. And just a reminder, if your manager wins, you get 6 points. A draw gives you 3 points. If for every goal you score, or manager's team scores, you get an extra point. Clean sheets get you 2 points. But here's the kicker. If the team you have an assistant manager for is 5 places behind the team that he beats, you get a bonus 10 points.
Wow.
Okay? Now, I was just doing the math now with Nate. I was looking at David Moyes. He would have scored last week 19 points because not only did he win for 6 points, he got a goal for the extra 7 points. There, 1 more point. That makes 7. Clean sheet takes us to 9. And then because he was playing a team that was 5 points ahead of him on the table and he beat them, he got that extra 10 points to make 19.
That's insane.
How you can use the assistant manager tip to get points. Now, Nate, I don't know about you, but I know I used Moyes as an example, and I think he's one of the most looked at outside of the next one. Not the obvious candidate, but definitely a serious contender, considering he got 19 points last week out for the trial run of the chip.
I agree.
So, yeah, I'll just go through his fixtures. He's playing Leicester. Leicester and Liverpool are both home games.
And this week, by the way,
Palace away,
he's got the
and
double
Man
game
United
week.
at home. Now, the big draw card with Moyes is obviously the fact that this is the double game week for Everton. So Moyes gets that extra game to pull in those points. Where that Liverpool game might be a tricky one to call. Still tricky, not necessarily a definite loss. The Leicester game is an easier one to call because Van Nistelrooy hasn't really taken Leicester up or at least made them better. They seem to be just as bad as they were before him.
Yeah.
The position points for him, I've looked at the positions of the clubs in and around him, and only if they beat Liverpool can he get that bonus 10 points. That's a little bit of the downside with Moyes, but I will always factor in the new manager bounce. He is back at his old club. He's a new manager. They are in form.
He just won his last game.
Could we see a Liverpool defeat? I don't know. What do you think?
It's possible. It's a Merseyside derby. It's one of those fixtures that, as a Liverpool fan, you are not looking forward to because it could go either way. I agree with you. Moyes probably one of the most looked at people, or one of the most looked at managers to be bringing in for this chip. You got to then talk about his counterpart in the Merseyside derby, which would be Arne Slot, which would probably be the next best option, just considering Liverpool's position in the table. Liverpool being on a good run of form and still holding that form. Also, the second team to have a double game week fixture this week alongside Everton. But trickier fixtures. I would not say any of them except for Wolves are guaranteed. I wouldn't say Bournemouth is a win, like a guaranteed win, although they should win, but it'll be tough. Everton will be tough and City will be tough. So Wolves are the only one really there where you'd say it's convincing. And they're all away games as well. So it's just something to keep in mind, except for the Wolves game. But he'd also get no positional points because they're at the top of the league. But he is the most likely manager to get wins and goals and clean sheets. So
if you had a lot of money to put down, if you had a lot of money to put down, you'd put it on him, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is why I took out Haaland, was for this preparation to see who I wanted to go to. And yeah, so managers will be priced between 1 mil to 2.5, if I'm not mistaken, between there.
0.5 to up, yeah. Moyes is 0.5 up.
Yeah, so
and
I mean,
Slot will be the 1.5, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So depends how much money you have and flexibility to play with. But Slot for me would be your safe pick. And then who would you say would be your other type of lower tier manager in terms
Well, I was
of
looking at
points?
a differential pick, which was Thomas Frank and Brentford. Now, their next three fixtures are a home game at Spurs, which
It
I
could
would
go either
say
way.
Brentford are more favored, right?
Yeah, yeah.
This form Spurs are in. They got West Ham and Leicester, which are two of the weaker teams right now. So they are versing weak teams in terms of defensive record and wins, especially in the last couple of games. Um, Brentford and their high scoring potential, right? They can score big in games, and I would say 2 out of the 3 games they're probably going to score 3 goals each.
Mm,
So I wouldn't be surprised. But they're not in the best form, and that's what kind of lets them down just a little. Their form isn't brilliant right now, but I do think that this is the time to bounce back on Mbuemo. I think we're about to see the spin back in form, Mbuemo and Wisa coming to the fore, and where Liverpool and Slot have solidity and they've been at the top, and Moyes has got the manager bounce. Thomas Frank has just been doing a good job regardless of all of these managers chopping and changing who's the champion, who's not the champion. So I think as a differential manager boost,
mm.
you could go with Thomas Frank.
Yeah, I agree. And again, these are just the managers that we've picked for this first game week from when it's active. You are more than able to just save your manager chip for later on in the season. I am not 100% sure I'll play mine this week, Mike. I don't know about you. It would seem like a good time because of the double game week fixture that's confirmed. However, there are some good fixtures later on in the season. And who knows if Chelsea keep playing the way they play, it's a risk. It might be a good shot because every team will be 5 places above Chelsea come the end of the season.
Yeah, I think if I was going to agree with you there, I would say that this week, while it's a good week for the double game week, it's not a good week in terms of the table.
hmm,
And as you saw from Moises' win, none of the 3 managers I just mentioned there are likely to get in the next 3 weeks big bonuses from playing someone 5
yeah.
places ahead of them. So if you were aiming for that part to get you points, I might look a little later in the season when the matches are favorable against teams that are in a poor run of form, that are higher up. And you can maybe target teams like um, Forest and Villa and Chelsea, and Arsenal, teams who are behind Liverpool, but not necessarily always look like they're going to come up with the win.
Hmm, yeah. It is something to keep in mind. And considering the calculation we made with David Moyes having 19 points, it's a very big impact chip. Could be a lot of place change. Speaking of place change,
Oh dear.
we thought we'd just introduce a bit of a review session and have a screenshot on screen of our teams. We'll start with the loser of the game week. You have to save the higher points for last. And it's not always like this. Mike beat me last week. It's shame on me that I decided to do it when I won. But on screen now, you'll see Mike's team. 58 points. I mean, it's respectable. It wasn't the easiest of game weeks at all. Obviously, Mo Salah being the captain for both of us, just getting us an average haul. Isak being the standout. I mean, your Ahmed pick gave you something. Gordon's there. Palmer blanked, which is sad. But yeah, I mean, it's just a standard game week, to be honest. I think anything above 55 odd points is just steady climb.
Yeah, I mean, the people I'm proudest of there would be sticking with Watkins, making sure he didn't make a mistake with the captain on Salah,
Mhm.
and Isak is just must owned. But yeah, my rank is sitting at, I don't even know how to say this number. I'm just gonna
Just
two
round it up.
million 800,000 and 873,215. Okay, so I'm not quite at the bottom of the barrel, but neither am I anywhere near the top.
Well, you got to think about this as well. You think 2.8 million, wow. There's also 11 million players this year, right? So, like, he's in the top 70%, 80,
Yeah, he's trying to make me feel better, but
75%.
let's jump to your team and we see
No, but
your
it's
rank and see
true.
how
It's
you
true.
feel.
It's not a bad place, but it's very difficult. For me, my team on screen now, 66 points this game week, slightly better. I had a masterclass decision to bring in Cody Gapco, who got me a brace and an assist. I should have captained him. Obviously, still having Isak in the team. Mo Salah, my captain, not doing anything. Gordon just doing average things. I had Trent in the team. I just decided to triple up in Liverpool for the double game week. I got an assist from Trent. Was close to be a clean sheet, but nevertheless, Hoytson on my bench with 6 points. He's proving to be a very good budget pick for me. Just racking in the points. But a slight green arrow for me, sitting at 11,892nd. So just under 12k overall, which is the best season that I've had so far.
And your bench doesn't look bad either. And I think that's
No.
the most impressive thing I can say about your team. That not only do you have an all-star 11, really, maybe I would only question your goalkeepers as being really
Yeah,
up there, but the rest of your team is solid. And I think that you could play your bench boost at any time and you could get a lot out of it. And so that's
yeah.
the biggest compliment I can say about your team.
Thank you. With that being said, because I've taken on Haaland, I have 3.9 mil in the bank. A bit sad I missed out on a price rise. I would have had 4.3, but I slept on that because obviously being sick and preoccupied. But nevertheless, having that 3.9 million allows me to upgrade one of the goalkeepers, and it allows me to get a good assistant manager in, and then wildcard and rebalance for Haaland if I want to. So that's kind of where I'm leading with my team at the moment.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some fixtures coming up this week that we want to maybe just take a look at. And the I don't know if there's any standout fixtures for you, but obviously looking at the Liverpool fixtures as a Liverpool double, a lot of people are going to captain Salah. Most people are going to captain Salah. Some people are going to triple captain Salah because they feel left out by what Haaland did, like game week 3
Glad
or
we
whatever.
capitalized on that when we had it.
So to keep an eye on the Liverpool fixtures. Anything could happen in the Everton game. But definitely, even the Bournemouth game, those are not easy games. Bournemouth look good, and they're pushing for top 4. They're on the same points as Chelsea.
Yeah.
So Bournemouth look good, and Everton look decent with Moyes. So it's not a pushover this double game week, but definitely keep an eye on that and whether how many Liverpool players you actually have. Everyone's got Salah more or less, but it's whether you have Trent versus Van Dijk, whether you have Gakpo versus Diaz as those other two options is going to be maybe the interesting part of looking at it. And then another game that I looked at was the Brentford versus Spurs game. I'm excited for this game as a neutral. I'm not saying I want to see Spurs lose. I'm just saying, I'm not saying I want to
What are
see
you talking about?
Postecoglou say, mate, it is what it is, mate. I just think that it's a game with goals. And it's a game that Brentford could score a lot of goals. I wouldn't be able to call who's going to win, but it definitely seems the advantages with Brentford and Buemo and Wisa, and I think there's going to be points there. So if you have held Buemo or you're thinking about going back to him, maybe the Spurs game is the perfect opportunity, and you might see Spurs drop directly into the relegation zone.
Yeah, that'll be a sad day for the Spurs fans. Yeah, to round it off on the weekend fixture, it would be the big boys clashing at the top, kind of at the top. Well, it would have been at the top if it was last season, but City versus Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal with no Saka, Man City finding the new talisman in Phil Foden. It's going to be an interesting game. I don't know who's going to win. I just think it's going to be a difficult game. I don't think there'll be many goals in it. But I don't know. Would you say you're on the opposite side of the spectrum? Do you think there'll be a lot of points?
I don't think there'll be a lot of points. It's always going to be a tricky game. And just remember what happened earlier in the season. This is the game that was very feisty. It was the game where Haaland was kind of a dick and threw the ball at Gabriel, patted Arteta in the back and told him to be humble, forcing Gabriel to sort of square up against Haaland. And then Haaland starting to call him a effing clown. All this on full footage for the whole world to see. And then it basically kickstarted City's worst form.
It's literally marked the downfall
For a long, long time. The last 10 years at least. Under Pep Guardiola, definitely the worst form we've ever seen. So what will happen in this game? I don't really pinpoint it as a FPL main because it could easily be a very stale game because no one wants to lose.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it could also be a landslide on either side, and you don't know. But it's actually going to be a really good game. So I think for neutrals, if you're not a fan of any of these teams, the Liverpool and Everton game is always going to be feisty. The Brentford Spurs game is going to be goals, and the City and Arsenal games, who knows what's going to happen. But what I do know, it's going to be feisty, it's going to be toasty. We got new players from City versus Arsenal's Stoke City corner style. So it's going to be it's a good game week for neutrals to watch some football.
Mike, why don't you tell us about your team while I cough my lungs out, and you can just give us a look into what your plans are for this week.
Yeah, so last week I kind of got dialed by my Wood transfer. So I brought in Wood and he finally blanked.
Oh no, the curse.
So that was a bad move, but I still think he's probably, if Forest maintain this type of form till the end of the season, I still think he's a good pick straight up. One of the reasons why my team missed on yours was because I had Jones and you brought in Gakpo, and Jones just before the game, a few days before, is now injured and out, and Gakpo goes and plays a blinder, and I'm almost certain that I would have got some points from Jones if he had played.
If he started,
You could have even I could have had the points, and you could have been the one with no points with Gakpo. So
very true.
We'll see. I think if I was looking at any moves for this weekend, and I had the money, I'm thinking Jordan Pickford for the double game week because he's one of the best keepers in the game. So he's not that heavily priced at 5.1. Bringing him in for the double game week, plus Moises' bounce, plus some decent fixtures coming up, as we spoke about earlier, plus his savability points because Everton do concede chances, but Jordan Pickford is England's number one goalkeeper. So I think I'd look at Pickford coming in. I'd look at Mbeumo coming back because
have you read my notes?
Time. Yeah,
I didn't even write notes today, and he's reading my mind. I was going to say on that. I was planning to take out Smith Rowe and bring in Mbeumo. I was also planning to upgrade Valid Marson to Pickford. So that's kind of where I was looking at. I don't know if I'll do both. I'm very cautious about taking -4s this season because of my position. If I had to pick one, I'd probably go Mbeumo. Upgrade Smith Rowe to Mbeumo. As we discussed, he's got some good fixtures, and I think he's going to score against Spurs. So yeah.
I back both those transfers, and I almost would say it might be worth not being too scared of the -4, particularly because you're bringing in a player that's got a double game fixture.
Yeah, so even if he blanks twice, gets 2 points, 2 points, it just cancels out. Yeah,
it's paying for itself, and you're setting yourself up with a good goalkeeper for the rest of the season. That balances out your team and takes it and sets you up for potential bench boost later on, right?
Yeah.
And if you end up keeping Henderson, which Crystal Palace defense hasn't really been destroyed since the removal of Trevor Chalobah.
I know we said, just moving on to captaincy choice, our last segment of today. Leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to comment down below. We did say it would be difficult games, but you got to back Salah to show up on those fixtures, and he's got to be the obvious captain choice.
Yeah, this contract news is still not 100% sorted out. It still keeps coming up that he's done for the season, and in most cases, I would almost think that some players might be turned by that or not playing their best, i.e., like Trent. But then when it comes to Salah, it's almost as if he's finishing his legacy at Liverpool going harder than he's ever gone before.
Yeah.
And so if there was anyone you would want back at this point in the season to have a double game week blinder, I would back Salah. And even if he doesn't have a blinder, he always either pops up with a late goal or gets a penalty. So he's also the safest pick, even if it wasn't a double game week.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say, looking at who's playing who this weekend, my other standout captain pick, just based off form and based on the team they're playing against, would be Mbeumo. Mbeumo's playing Spurs. Mbeumo started scoring. He scored against Crystal Palace, blanked after the Southampton game, but normally when he scores, he starts to build form and gets a couple goals. So I think this could be the game. So for me, he would be the other option. Then there's two people that I want to talk about for differentials for my team specifically. The first one is Cody Gakpo, just because, as we said, Liverpool are playing 2 fixtures this game week. Salah is the obvious one, but as we saw last week, Gakpo did the haul in and Salah just got the point involvement. So it could be him. Actually, could be any one of the Liverpool forwards, to be honest. It could be Darwin Núñez, could be Diaz, Salah, Gakpo. So, yeah, I think either one of the Liverpool players is differential. And then I know it's he didn't show up and he hasn't been on form, but I got to shout out Cole Palmer. He is playing West Ham at home this weekend, obviously off the back of a City defeat and a quiet Wolverhampton win. But you got to think that he's due some sort of haul very soon, don't you? The caliber of player that he is.
He is due, but I'm starting to feel that his high scoring points so far might be an indication of early season, like left over from last season. He hasn't done well in any of the big games. He seems to be disappearing and playing much deeper. Analyzing Maresca's impact on him has clearly been more negative than positive. In terms of his positional play, how much he's been marked, where he's on the field, and his involvement in the goals, and that kind of weak pass to Jackson, which Jackson also screwed up, is just a continuation of a similar theme. That Palmer is not at his best. I would counter Palmer and say a better differential and safer pick is you shouldn't be looking too far away from Isak. Like
No.
he is a goal scorer. The only thing I'd say is that there are bids coming in from everywhere for some of these top players. Arsenal put a 60 mil bid in for Watkins that Villa was unhappy about. I wouldn't be surprised if Isak gets a bid put in for him as well, even though he's in a better place than Aston Villa and sometimes in terms of form. But both of those two forwards could end up anywhere. And with Chelsea hunting for a forward and Arsenal hunting for a forward, you never know what this window could throw up.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll be right here to tell you with the consistent weekly updates. And as soon as we have something, we share it. But that'll wrap up today's episode. Good luck for Game Week 24. Let us know in the comments if you are going to be playing your assistant manager chip this week. I personally am not. I'm going to hold on to it a bit longer. But I will make those transfer moves. And like I say, I've got the triple up on Liverpool. Yeah, let us know if you're going to play it. Let us know who your captain is this week. And we'll see you next week for Game Week 25.
Perfect. Cheers, guys.